Hello everyone, welcome to another beer review, and thankfully we can say it's a Sunday video today, and we're back on the Harvey's kind of beers, because we did one just before I went away to Lanzarote, and back again. And today, well, hopefully it'll be a nice beer, because it is a Sunday beer, because you can see there's no whiskey about. We're doing Harvey's Sussex Best. You gotta be careful how you say that. Sussex Best. Bitter. A blend of 4 local hops creates a superbly balanced bitter. Well, hopefully it is. What does it say on it? A superbly balanced bitter with prominent hop characters using a blend of 4 local hops, water, filtered down through the Sussex Downs over 30 years, and Harvey's unique 60-year-old yeast strain. Harvey's Best Bitter is the embodiment of Sussex. Throughout changing times, the name of Harvey has become synonymous with Sussex and a hallmark of quality, consistency and tradition. There you go. There you go. So yeah, authentically brewed since 1790, A+. Well, that's not really true, because you weren't actually brewing in 1790. Yeah, the founder actually started the company in 1790, but he didn't actually start doing brewing, and that was only as a side thing from the actual business. It was a side to the business. And that was 1820, so I don't know what that's about. That's a bit kind of cheeky. So it is. And alcohol content, it's 4%, right on the button again. I think the golden ale was 4%. And it's 500ml. So, should we crack it open and see what it's like? Big glass here. Again, you could probably think, oh, he's quite happy about that. Yeah, because it's the bitter. And I hope to God it is bitter. Oh, bloody hell. That's going a bit Pete Tong there. Jesus. Got a bit fairy liquid on me. Oh, bloody foamy. Red Ox in a glass. Anyway. Jesus, I caught that safe enough. This is the table that the wife actually eats her breakfast on, so I usually clean it with my genitals. You know, just to show I care. Quick wipe. Well, it's more of a smear than a wipe, but anyway, it's a thought that counts. A wee bit of aroma here. We're getting some light malt. I'd probably say maybe light caramel. Not really getting any hop smell, just some light caramel, maybe a light bit of grain. Not particularly strong. This is the second beer that we've done, and both of them haven't been particularly strong in the aroma front. So, let's see what it tastes like. First thing I noticed, it's a bit sweeter than what I thought it would be. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's a bit sweeter. But again, it could be just maybe my mouth getting acclimatised to it. So I would say that, but not particularly heavy in the bitterness either. I mean, initially I would say there's not much bitterness there at all. Although there was a slight bitter accent that was a bit more in the mid-tongue than there was at the kind of back of the mid-tongue, stroke back of the mouth. So, I mean, I know it's a bit of a tradition in southern kind of areas of this God-forsaken land. I thought it was supposed to be God's green land. Is that it goes? Anyway, I might be right the first time. That they don't like too much bitterness in their bitter. No, they're not. Which is strange actually, because they love fucking pininess in their craft beer down here, down in kind of the southern counties and all that type of stuff. But not so much in this traditional bitter. And I think that's probably why kind of a lot of bitters have kind of morphed into amber ale, especially down in the kind of southern areas. Because remember, amber ale isn't a really traditional beer type. Bitter was the traditional beer type. And as things have kind of moved away from having the bitter back end, it kind of morphed into these kind of amber ales, which were basically a kind of a bitter, but without the bitter. But now I'm kind of noticing that there's quite a lot of bitters now that, well, really should be amber ales, because they're calling them bitters, but they have no bitterness really. And you think, and I mean, I've had amber ales with more bitterness than quite a lot of bitters, and you're thinking, well, what's the point of calling them bitter? Might as well just call them an amber ale. So, I mean, but I would say even some of the kind of Yorkshire bitters aren't as big in the back end as they used to be and things like that. I've got a lot of them, I've got lighter in the back end over the years, which is a trade. Well, I can understand, because obviously hops cost more money. So if they can lighten up in the hops, then of course it maybe makes a beer more profitable, or maybe just reduces production costs and things like that, regardless of price and things like that. But for me, I just think it's a bit daft. I do. Was the best bitter? It's bordering on the amber ale front, I'll be totally honest. Nice general flavours, yep. Nice mouthfeel, all that kind of stuff. But as a bitter, I'm looking for something a bit more at the back end. Call me old school. There's nothing that much going on in the mid-tongue either. I mean, it's nice, pleasant, easy drinking. Quite happy with this, you know, a few pints of this in a pub and everything else. But if it was sold to me in a pub as a bitter, and it tasted like this, if I went back and got another glass of it, I'd be asked for, give us one of your amber ales. Oh, you mean the bitter? No, I mean, that's an amber ale, because it ain't a fucking bitter. And while the breweries maybe sold it to you as a bitter, trust me, that ain't a bitter. It's an amber ale. But for some strange reason, I haven't got the balls to call it, because, oh yeah, that's right, because the traditional name and the branding and everything else, you can't really call it an amber ale, because it was always supposed to be a bitter, even though you're now making it as an amber ale. So what you'll do is you'll still call it a bitter, but you know, and just pretend, and hopefully nobody notices. Or hopefully people are the way they are nowadays, spineless, and won't actually call it out for what it is, you know. And it's that type of thing, you know, because I think that's one of the things, is they rely on people not wanting to kind of have any kind of hassle, or I don't want to get involved, you know what I mean? Oh, well, if they call it a bitter, it's a bitter, you know, that type of thing. Because people are kind of spineless now. And while we turn around and we say that how would you say what we are nowadays? I'd say yes. People are frightened to basically stand up for themselves. People are frightened to challenge. I'm getting to that age now, whereas I always like challenging anyway, but I'm getting probably more so nowadays. You know, if people are ignorant to us, I will call them out. You know. You know, what I've noticed is people just tend to just do what they want, and you know, they expect not to be challenged, you know, in their behaviour and things like that, which I do. I've always kind of done it in the past, but I'm probably a lot more forceful now, because I've just had enough of it. You know, you're walking down the pavement, you know, and there's two people or maybe three people side by side, and nobody's going to make the move. They want you either step off the pavement or basically, you know, walk along the side of the curb. And I'm like, no, Fucking move, arseholes, you know. The fuck you think you are, you ignorant bastards, you know. Yeah, fuck off, call them out, you know. Or if you're in shops, I notice that I hate going shopping with the wife, because you're in these bloody stores, she's looking at clothes. And you know you're just doing this following about like a lapdog, you know. You know. Never anywhere to sit nowadays in a lot of these kind of modern stores now, you know. You used to be able to find a shoe department and just get your ass down in the seat there, but you can't even do that now. And I've stopped stripping dummies. That was used to be the thing we used to do if we were bored. And, well, we'd have a game with the kids whenever we gave a strip the dummy. And you could just scrapely strip one of the display dummies, so basically, eventually, you know, by the time you've left that shop, there's a few dummies that are completely naked. There's no point to it whatsoever apart from the challenge, and you do one and then they've got to do one. You've got to do it discreetly and everything else. It's just quite funny. It used to be great in summertime, you know, stripping all the bikinis off the dummy. I know it's sad, but things we used to do just to kind of stop our basically going mad. But I notice a lot of times now is the cases of even just the areas round about the kind of clothes racks are getting thinner and thinner, so it's getting harder to try and get through. And women just don't give a toss. They won't move. You say, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, will you fucking move, you fat arse. Good. And I'm sorry, it might sound a bit rough and a bit kind of crude and everything else, but I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, I'll show politeness only so far, and then it's a case of I'll take your non-reaction to it as just plain ignorant, and then I'll just treat you like an ignorant person, you know, and that's the situation. I just find that people are just spineless, and I've sometimes watched people, you're thinking, he should do something about that. I mean, they're ripping the piss out of him or her or whatever, and they don't. They're like, oh, they're like wee timid kittens. Oh, I'll just, you know, no. They're ripping the piss, they're taking advantage of you. And the problem is, politicians and governments have been doing it for a long, long time here. And companies do it, they all do it, they'll lie, they'll cheat and everything else. And to be totally honest, if you're calling this a best better, and it isn't a better, let's be totally honest, it's a bloody amber ale. Then I would call out in a pub, don't put that as a better. I don't give a shit what they call it. It's a fucking... We tasted it. Right, where's the bitterness then? At which point, where's the flavour profiles there that actually match a flavour profile of a traditional bitter? I would challenge the barman. I'd probably be chucked out in the bar, but I don't give a fuck. Because at the end of the day, you know, stop selling stuff that isn't. You know, I mean, if you're going to make a better, make a better. Don't make an amber ale and then try and, well, it's always been a better, but at the end of the day, it's too expensive, so we'll make it an amber ale, and then we'll sell it as a better and we make more money, you know. And that's what it feels like. I'm sitting here drinking a rip-off. I mean, it's fine as an amber ale, it's fine as just a general ale or whatever, you know what I mean, but it's definitely not a better. Right, let's break down the flavours. A bit of sweetness there, actually a bit more sweetness than I actually thought. Kind of lighter kind of caramel, kind of malt notes, and a bit of grey. Moves on to the mid-tongue. And again, very much of a muchness. It's very similar to what's going on in the front, apart from there's a little spike which will give you a little hint of bitterness, just a little bit. I think just the hops just kind of come through a little bit, and that's all you really get. It's just a little spike just around about the middle of the mid-tongue that give you, a wee bit of bitterness there, and you think, oh good, this is it now ramping up to go towards the kind of the back of the tongue or the back of the mouth, you know what I mean? And no, nothing happens after that. Well, I'm saying there's a little bit of bitterness at the back end, a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's really any more than really what's there in the mid-tongue. And it's definitely not more than that little slight bitterness spike that you get in the mid-tongue. So you're thinking, I mean, they're talking about 4 hops. It doesn't really taste that there's actually really that much hops in there. It's not floral, it's not anything, you know. No, I mean, there's a little bit of hoppiness there, but not as a bitterness. I would just say more of that kind of, how would you say, it comes across more as a ever so slight, it's a little bit slightly soapy. You know, either they're using crappy bloody hops and they're trying to put more into them to try and basically get them to work, and you're getting more of a soapiness rather than the actual kind of bitterness effect that you want. Or they're really not putting much in. Well, they may be using quality ingredients, but they're not putting enough in there to really, so you're kind of hanging about the kind of slightly soapy, kind of soapy dishwater kind of area before really kind of stepping up to get that bitterness, you know, and it's just, you're not adding enough to it. I mean, they did claim there was 4 different types of hops. A superbly balanced bitter with prominent hop character, but I don't really think it's that hoppy. Using a blend of 4 local hops, well, I'd maybe start buying your hops somewhere else then, because obviously the local ones aren't really kind of hacking it, or you're really not putting enough in for it to really make a difference. So yeah, quite disappointing. Which then pisses me off. And I would say that I'm getting more and more pissed off with bitters nowadays. Not because of the style of beer, it's because how breweries are making them. There's a lot of disappointing bitters out there nowadays. You know, and it's quite sad. Really, it's quite sad. And it's annoying me because it's one of my favourites. And because of that, it's pushing me more towards milds. As I said before, there's another problem in milds. It's not the quality of the milds. The milds are usually quite good. The problem is there isn't so many of them, and there's very few to actually buy in a supermarket and things like that. And I'm talking about whether I'm in Scotland or whether I'm down south. There might be a little bit more of a selection, kind of mid-country in England and that type of stuff. But the problem is, so yeah, that's fine, but if you're not in these areas, then it's bloody useless to you, you know what I mean? So yeah, a lot of times I would say the majority of milds that I drink, unless I'm in a pub, but the majority of them is just what I bought from breweries online. I can't remember the last time I actually bought a mild in a supermarket. But I'll be honest, it's been a good few years. I would say at least maybe 4 or 5 years at least. So that says a lot. So you've got milds basically non-existent. You know, if you popped in a supermarket and I'll just nip it in the supermarket and get a couple of milds, you just can't do that. Especially in certain areas of the country. But it's also get to that situation as well that, you know, you'll pop into the supermarket and get a couple of bitters. Well, more like amber ales rather than bitters. So again, that's going to annoy me. So anyway, what would I give this out of 10? I mean, it's alright, it's not a bad beer, but it's not a bitter. It's an amber ale, really. It's just a kind of an okay run-of-the-mill amber ale. It's nothing brilliant, nothing wonderful. It's alright. Like I say, there's a bit of hoppiness in the mid-tongue, but nothing really at the back end, and nothing to really say better. But it's an okay ale, if you look at it that way. Nice mouthful, like I said. The flavours that are there are fine, not a problem. Maybe a little bit sweeter than I would kind of like and maybe expect for this type of beer, which again kind of pushes it more towards an amber ale. Because one of the things is they usually up the sugar the inverted sugar content and drop the hops, you know. Yeah, malt's expensive, hops expensive, inverted sugar, shit cheap. You know what I mean? So you see how they usually work it. So out of 10, I'm just going to give it a 5. There's not much I'm going to just treat it as a 5, because if they basically market it as just an English ale, or they market it as an amber ale, then it maybe got a wee bit more. But I'll be totally honest, they market it as a bitter. It's not a bitter. So on that basis, I can only give it a 5. So anyway, it's 4%, 500ml. It's a Sussex Best bitter. Well, it's not a bitter. It's 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.